You are listening to Skin, Earth, Vitality, the podcast where ancient wisdom meets modern vitality. If you are seeking to reconnect with your innate vibrancy, you're in the right place. I'm Emily Davis, a seasoned holistic esthetician and herbalist. Join me as we unlock the secrets of ancient skincare practices, explore the beauty of seasonal and nature-based living, herbalism, and true holistic well-being for you and the broader ecosystem. Welcome back into Skin, Earth, Vitality. This is episode 33, and today I want to talk about the autumn equinox because we're almost there. It's Sunday, the 22nd. This year is 2024 if you're listening in the future. If you're listening past the day of the equinox, that's totally great. I'm going to talk a lot about just fall herbs, skincare for fall, some ways that you can celebrate the start of autumn, which you can do on Sunday the 22nd. It's a perfect day to celebrate the equinox, but you could do it at any point in time that feels good to you. So why is this relevant? Why is seasonal living relevant to a wellness podcast? And the reason is that seasonal living has become such a big part of my life in the last couple of years, returning to the rhythms of nature that are happening outside of our window and looking at the way that those manifest in our inner world as well is one of the biggest missed topics in the wellness world. It's something that is largely forgotten. It's a forgotten art in our modern culture. And I think because of this misalignment, we suffer from things like mental health struggles. So it's relevant because everyone's talking about the root cause. It's your nervous system. It's this, it's that. But I think that a real root cause that is getting missed is the misalignment with the season. We are the only animal resisting the rhythms of the earth. We instead are trying to dominate over it. And I feel like seasonal alignment is a primary pillar of wellness. So as I mentioned, the autumn equinox is this Sunday, the 22nd of September for this year. And the autumn equinox is the day when the sun is directly above the equator, marking the beginning of autumn. So it's the first day of autumn, the end of summer, and it occurs when day and night are equal in length. So it's a day of balance between dark and light. Being this time of balance between the dark and the light, it's a great time for some introspection to see where you have cultivated balance in your life and where you're enjoying that, but also to see where you can bring a little bit more balance in other areas. And I think that there's never going to be perfect balance, right? Like there's this myth of work-life balance where you can spend equal amounts of energy on both things at all times and feel eternally happy. This can feel really unattainable. And I think balance, instead of being like a perfect fixed state, is more useful to think of it as being like a flexible and evolving process. We can see balance as like an ongoing effort to be able to prioritize what matters most to us in different seasons of life. So let go of having to have a perfect like balance of the scales and think of it more like that. And this is a wonderful time to see where you can bring more balance into your life. Where are there things that you would like to prioritize more that are getting put on the back burner? So the autumn equinox is a really beautiful time to be thinking about those themes. It's also a celebration of harvest. So even if you don't have your own garden, again, you can turn inward and think of the ways ways that you are experiencing harvest in your life. So maybe thinking back to the new year when you were in the dreaming stages of what was to be, and then maybe in the spring as you were planting the seeds. And since the spring, what has come to fruition for you in your life that you can celebrate, that you can express gratitude for? And of course, this can also mean a literal celebration of the harvest. I know that I just got a ton of peaches. It's been a couple of weeks now and they're long gone at this point, but I got a ton of really beautiful Palisade peaches from Western Slope here in Colorado. And they were just so amazing. The best peaches I've ever had, or just all of the beautiful heirloom tomatoes that have been around, or, all of the beautiful produce that you have had access to that we don't really have access to that quality, that freshness in the dead of winter. Even if you are, getting strawberries at Whole Foods, it's a lot different in the summer. So just thinking about the celebration of the harvest. Autumn is also a time of letting go. So as we're watching trees begin to release their leaves, thinking about what ways you're letting go in your life. So are there stories that you've held on to that aren't serving you any longer? Old patterns, old ways of being, old habits that aren't part of the identity that you want to continue holding on to. Maybe there are places where you're playing small and you want to change your beliefs around what is possible for you or what your worthiness is around that particular area. Maybe there are old jobs, old friends, old whatever, people in your life that it's time to let go of that relationship or of that situation. This is a great time to be thinking about that, and obviously not acting impulsively, but just considering what areas of your life are you ready to let go. Autumn is the beginning of the yin time of year. So as I've been talking about all of these themes, autumn is when we start to be more introspective, whereas in the summer, we are more concerned with the world outside of us. As we move into autumn and winter, it's a more introspective time of year. It's a great time to take up a journaling habit. And as a person who has journaled my whole life, I cannot recommend this enough. Journaling is just such a beautiful practice for anybody, really. I'm a big fan of physical journaling, so get yourself a really nice journal that makes you want to pick it up, something that's really beautiful. I'm a big fan of colored pens as well. I will choose a different color for the mood that I'm in that day. And I recommend just playing around until you find what works for you. You can free write. That's what I do most of the time. I just will open my journal and whatever's on my mind at the moment, I will just get every single thing out on paper so that it's not all jumbled up in my mind. Something that I also really love are journal prompts. So I go on Pinterest and I'll look up journal prompt for the autumn equinox or journal prompt for, whatever it is. There are a million different journal prompts on Pinterest, and I just feel like that's a great place to get them, and I save them in their own folder on there. You can do so many things. Sometimes I will play with stickers. I will just draw in my journal. It's just a really fun place to be creative. And even if you think that you're not a creative person, that's actually not true. I would challenge that limiting belief, because being a human means that you're inherently creative. That's just part of human nature. So maybe that's a place that you start. Why do I think I'm not creative? Where did I get that idea? And just keep following the thread backwards. So journaling is a wonderful fall activity as we're moving into this more yin season. And what I mean by a yin season, it's more of this darker, softer, slower energy of the fall and the winter, in contrast to the expansive nature of the summer. During the autumn and fall, just like what's happening in the world outside, our body begins to contract a little bit more. And one thing that I learned in one of my gua sha courses is that the yin and the yang is really just like a contraction and an expansion. And these ideas come from traditional Chinese medicine. And in traditional Chinese medicine, autumn is the season of the lungs and the large intestine. And both of these organs are elimination organs. Again, that idea of letting go. The lungs and the large intestine are both responsible for eliminating waste from our body, but also gathering nutrients and absorbing nutrients into the body. Thinking about supporting the lungs during this season, it's definitely really important to protect the tissue. And when you think of the lungs, they are just like the skin, just like our gut. They are in direct contact with the outside world, which sounds kind of weird because they're in our body. But when we're breathing things in, it's coming into direct contact with our lung tissue. And that's actually one of the quickest ways for substances to get straight into the bloodstream. So protecting our lungs looks like doing herbal steams. Thyme is one of my favorite herbs to do herbal steams to support the respiratory system. Other lung supportive herbs include mullein, hibiscus, fennel, marshmallow. It's also a great time for grounding our energy down with roots like ashwagandha, burdock, again, marshmallow, ginger, turmeric, and then warming herbs like ginger again, cinnamon, cayenne, clove, turmeric again, are also going to help to offset the coolness that comes with this season. And then, of course, immune supportive plants are important during this time of year as well, like elderberry or garlic, mushrooms, medicinal mushrooms. Ginger shows up again, clove. And then eating for the season is another aspect that's so important to seasonal living. And luckily, what's in season is what's the most supportive to your body during that season of the year. And when you're properly supporting your body with seasonal living, it's actually going to give you what you need in the next season over. So in the summer, if we are getting outside, enjoying the sun, we are getting enough vitamin D. And actually, if you're getting enough of that energy and enough of that sunshine during the summer, it can help to prevent seasonal affective disorder in the following seasons afterward. If you are resting properly in the winter and building up your reserves, it's actually going to help you in the springtime to not experience burnout. So seasonal living, there's just layers and layers of why it's so important. So some seasonal foods that are great during the fall, lots of grounding, hearty, nourishing foods like soups, broth, squash, roots like Potatoes, root vegetables, beets are a great one. Cold weather veggies like Brussels sprouts and kale, and cruciferous veggies like cauliflower and broccoli. Getting in as many seasonal foods as possible now and eating with the season is an easy and usually more affordable way to support your wellness during this time of year. Okay, so back to the equinox. And again, if this is past the equinox, you can still celebrate in the weeks after. It's just a time to celebrate the oncoming season and to make it feel a little bit more special. A harvest feast is a great way to celebrate. Cooking something hearty and nourishing that's in season. Ina Garten has a fantastic YouTube video guide to making a whole roast chicken with carrots and potatoes and onions, and I'll link that in the show notes. That's one of my favorite go-to warming, nourishing fall, winter type of meals. That's super easy and makes it look like you put a ton of effort, and it's super fancy but also simple at the same time. And then maybe eating by candlelight, maybe putting out a fallscape on the table, cooking for somebody else, putting love into the food is such a beautiful way to celebrate autumn. Taking a walk in nature or riding your bike, just enjoying how beautiful it is outside right now. Finding an equinox meditation. So you can get on YouTube, or one of my favorite apps is Insight Timer, and just type in equinox meditation and so many will come up. Doing a fall craft like making a wreath or making beeswax candles, maybe making elderberry syrup or fire cider. Journaling is a beautiful way to celebrate the equinox. Maybe gratitude journaling or searching for autumn equinox journal prompts, or even just journaling on any of the introspective things that I mentioned before. Reading is a big one. I always love to read. And so a couple of seasonal books that I think are appropriate. Braiding Sweetgrass is a beautiful book to read this time of year. I recently had a client tell me about this book. It's called The Feast Next Door, and it's a food journalist. She worked for the Chicago Tribune, and in the same week, she lost her job, which was really important to her. Her husband told her he wanted a divorce. And so her whole life was uprooted and she had to let go. And she moved up into this cabin that they had bought that was just out in like this rural place. And so because she found herself without a job, living in this cabin, she had to put herself on a really strict budget, but she had been a food journalist, so she really liked bougie food. So she just goes on this journey, and this was years and years ago, but she's spending $40 a week was her cap, and she's getting all of these amazing local foods from local farms and local artisans, and making her own food. It's filled with recipes. It's just such a beautiful book. I really enjoyed it. Seasonal fiction. Again, we're moving into this yin season, and this is a time to embrace pleasure in slowness and not feel the need to constantly be productive. And so books that I really love for fall that are in the fiction category include The Simplicity of Cider, First Frost. Those are two kind of like hallmarky seasonal books. A Discovery of Witches is more of a fantasy. Anne of Green Gables is always a favorite. Watching fall movies is another fantastic way to celebrate the equinox. Maybe you have a special movie night with seasonal treats. Some of my favorite fall movies include When Harry Met Sally, You've Got Mail. Little Women is another favorite, although that's kind of more of a Christmassy favorite for me, but I do love that one. Stepmom. So all of these are really good, cozy movies to get all the fall feels going on. And thinking about your skin, of course, I want to tie this back into skincare as well. How can we transition our skin into the fall? My first recommendation is to get a humidifier if you don't have one already, or bring it into your room to sleep with if you haven't had it, because it's definitely a time when things are getting a little bit drier, a little bit crunchier, and we can feel maybe a little bit crustier. And so having a humidifier while you sleep can really help to hydrate your skin. It's definitely a great time to switch to a balm if you're not already using one. I personally love the Laurel balms. She has a day balm and a night balm, which are my absolute favorite thing in the world. So with a balm, this is a solidified oil with wax. And so the wax is going to make that oil hang out on your skin a little bit longer and be a little bit more occlusive, which means it's going to hold that hydration from the water in your skin a little bit more effectively. And so with that being said, with a balm, it's really important that you're also using a tonic or some type of a hydrating elixir. Maybe that looks like a hydrating toner that doesn't have exfoliation acids or alcohols or anything like that in it. It's truly just hydrating. So maybe it has rose water or some type of a hydrosol. You want to pair that with your balm, especially this time of year when things are getting a little bit drier. It's also a great time to be using either a really lovely oil-based cream cleanser or an oil cleanser, so that you're not stripping your skin and stripping those oils that your skin really needs this time of year to hold that hydration in. This might be a great time to incorporate an overnight mask. So this will often look like a creamy mask. It's never going to be a clay mask. And it's something that's going to absorb into your skin really well. I carry a product called Lavish from Blissoma that has maitake mushroom and oats that give beta glucans. And so the beta glucans actually help to support your skin's barrier, but this is like the richest creamy mask ever, and it absorbs into the skin really well. So I'll just put it on my skin right before heading to bed, and I'll wake up and it feels amazing. It doesn't get on my pillowcase because it absorbs so well. So an overnight mask is also a wonderful thing. Definitely making sure that you're also caring for the skin on your body. So maybe dry brushing or using Garshina gloves, which are a raw silk glove that I do have in my shop now as well. And this is similar to dry brushing, but it's going to be more gentle. And we don't want to use a ton of friction, especially this time of year. So very gently dry brushing, and then maybe adding some body oil to your skin afterwards, doing Abhyanga. I talked about that in my episode with Margaret James, where we talked about different Ayurvedic principles. But Abhyanga is where you will apply oil after dry brushing, and you'll let it soak in for, like 20 to 40 minutes. And then after that, you'll take a warm shower, and this will open everything up so that the oil can absorb really well. Those are just a couple of my fall seasonal skincare recommendations. These are also a fantastic thing to do for the autumn equinox. Maybe have a little at-home spa day for yourself. doing some really warming, nourishing activities, and I hope that you enjoyed this overview of some seasonal living. We're going to be incorporating that much more into the podcast. I will be back next week with an interview that I'm so excited to share, and until then, be well. You've been listening to Skin, Earth, Vitality. If you liked what you heard today, consider giving me a 5-star rating. It helps other people just like you find the show. You can shop products and find all of my offerings on my website, stratumaesthetics.com, and follow me on my social channels at Stratum Aesthetics.